Ladies and gentlemen, presenting for your entertainment and amazement, the king of handcuffs, the master of manacles, Harry Houdini. So stay right where you are for the final story, the incredible story of the man who made the impossible possible.
The suspicious death of Harry Houdini. Master escape artist Harry Houdini died on Halloween of 1926 from a ruptured appendix, but many of the circumstances surrounding his demise remain mysterious to this day. Houdini was the world's greatest escape artist because of his ability to free himself handcuffed and shackled from almost anything imaginable. Who is Harry Houdini? How did he really die? Did Harry Houdini die during a trick? Before we answer these questions, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to be notified as soon as new videos are uploaded. Harry Houdini was born Erich Weiss in Hungary in 1874. When he was 4, he immigrated to the US with his mother Cecilia and 4 brothers to meet with his father Herman, who had already moved to the States a few years before. They settled in the town of Appleton, Wisconsin, where his father was a rabbi at a small Reformed congregation. The family's relative poverty imprinted a drive to be successful in the boy who would be Houdini. By the age of 9, in part to help support his family, Eric began working as a trapeze performer in a circus. In 1882, his family moved to New York City, where Eric began performing in vaudeville shows, then considered to be the top of the entertainment pyramid, though at first Eric didn't make much impact. Fascinated by conjuring of all kinds, especially that of the great 19th century French magician Jean-Eugène Robert Houdin, Eric later took the name Harry Houdini, thinking that the additional I meant like in French. Houdini had a penchant for not just creating his own amazing illusions, but performing other magicians' tricks as well, only better. For instance, British magician Charles Morrit pioneered a trick where he made a live donkey disappear on stage. Houdini paid Morrit for the rights to perform the trick and then figured out how to do it, but with an elephant. According to John Cox, author of Houdini website Wild About Harry's, quote, "We still don't know how he did the elephant trick. He would Houdini-size these more common feats of magic. His mind was always innovating, always inventing." Part of the reason why more than 100 years later we still don't know the exact tricks behind Houdini performances is because he guarded his secrets so well. Though he was very wary of imitators, Houdini didn't patent his tricks, since in the patent process he would have to give a detailed explanation of how they worked. These explanations would be publicly available and therefore destroy the magic. To get around this, for his Chinese water torture cell trick, Houdini staged the trick on stage in England as a one-act play with only a single person in the audience. This allowed him to copyright the act instead of patenting it, meaning no one else could perform the trick, and how he pulled it off would remain a secret. While Houdini cultivated an air of mystery around his death-defying feats, he never claimed his abilities to be supernatural. In fact, Houdini grew to detest claims of otherworldly powers, becoming one of the leading critics of the spiritualist movement that was gaining momentum in Europe and the United States in the wake of World War I. In the 1890s, Houdini and his wife Bess dabbled in practicing spiritualism, attempting to summon the dead in public after researching names at local graveyards. It didn't take Houdini long to realize the entire practice was nonsense. Houdini became a career at surviving the impossible, which only made the circumstances of his 1926 death all the more mysterious. The 52-year-old performed before a packed house in Detroit on October 24th. But was rushed to the hospital afterwards with an apparent case of appendicitis. He died just a week later on Halloween, leaving his legions of admirers bewildered. An obituary in the New York Times exposed shock at the sudden passing of the man who so often had seemed to thousands to be cheating the very jaws of death. The death of Houdini. In October 1926, while performing in Montreal, Canada, Houdini was punched by a 30-year-old McGill University student named J. Gordon Whitehead, believing a boast that Houdini could withstand a blow to the stomach. Whitehead struck the magician several times before he was ready. Houdini ignored the pain and increasing fever and pushed on to his next engagement at the Garrick Theater in Detroit. After struggling through a performance with a 104-degree temperature, Houdini gave in to doctor's orders and checked into Grace Hospital. When Houdini was operated on, it was discovered that he had been suffering from appendicitis and that his appendix had ruptured. Peritonitis had set in. A second operation and an experimental serum failed to save him. Houdini died at 1:26 p.m. on Halloween, 1926. A theory soon emerged that his death was no accident, however, and the rumors stuck. As recently as 2008, Houdini's grandnephew sought permission to exhume his body and test for poison, noting that the outspoken magician had given many people motive for murder. In addition to being a masterful escape artist who broke free from handcuffs and straitjackets, prisons and padded cells, a leather mail pouch, and a giant milk can filled with water, Houdini was an acerbic critic of clairvoyants he believed were defrauding the public. He denounced famed mediums as a member of the Scientific American Committee on Psychic Phenomena in 1924. As Time reported, and went on to recreate their tricks before his own audience later. In 1926, he testified before Congress in favor of a bill to regulate mediums and fortune tellers, towards whom he showed both skepticism and contempt. It was easy to see why they might want him out of the way. Notwithstanding his suspicion of seances, he hadn't ruled out the possibility of communicating with spirits. He and his wife agreed that when one of them died, they'd each attempt to get in touch with the other from whichever world they found themselves in. Wilhelmina Houdini held up her end of the bargain. For more than 3 years after his death, she attempted to make contact. And while a number of so-called spiritualists told her they'd gotten messages from her husband, it was easy to tell they were fakes. According to a 1930 dispatch in Time, she and Houdini prearranged a code in which no medium had yet brought word from him. Finally, she gave up, taking his silence as a sign that the spirit world does not exist, or at least it doesn't talk. Houdini's psychic foes, on the other hand, took it as a sign that he continued to spite them from beyond the grave. According to Time, spiritualists retorted that it proved nothing. Some even charged that Houdini's spirit is being stubborn. And that's it for today's video. Don't forget to smash that like button, share this video with your friends, and tell us what you want to see next in the comment section down below.